Welcome to Bilingual Ukuleles, Centros Bilingües de Ukulele para teachers, maestras, maestros, profesores de música en Estados Unidos. So welcome, bienvenidos. ¿Quién es bilingüe? Who's bilingual in this class? Who is trying to incorporate more Spanish? Oh, muy bien. Who is a native or heritage speaker of Spanish? You grew up speaking Spanish. Excelente. Be kind. Great. How many people are here because their students' population has turned into a new population that you're trying to reach? Amazing. So that's why I decided to do this year. I was super inspired by one of the presenters last year. Did someone tune the ukulele? Oh, all right. So here we go. So if you are Spanish dominant and you want to work on English, if you're English dominant and you want to work on Spanish, go back and forth. It's totally up to you. So vamos a tocar. So we're going to listen. We're going to sing. Canta. And just get ready to use your fingers. Okay. All right. Pulgar sobre... Wait, I'm going to go first. So listen. Pulgar sobre la estrella. Oh, we have to use our imagination. Wait a second. Usamos la imaginación para marque dibujan una estrella detrás a su ukulele. So pick a star. And give your ukulele a thumbs up. It's behind, detrás, el segundo barra, detrás de, the second fret, the bar of the fret, okay? Curva, all right, got it? If you need a ukulele, we have them. Got it. Pulgar sobre la estrella, pulgar sobre la estrella, curva el resto. Curva el resto, tres en el rojo, tres en el rojo, rasgueando hacia abajo. Ah, so you drew your star, you found your thumb, you gave yourself a thumbs up. Now you're ready. Let's do it in English. Thumb on the star, thumb on the star, curve the rest, curve the rest, three on red, three on red, strumming down, strumming down. Wow, students, you have the most curved fingers I have ever seen. I don't even have a correction for that, but a lot of our students will be like this. So that's where we get to take time to go around and just move their hands on this song. So this is one of the first songs that we do in kindergarten and first grade at my school. All right, here we go. Now, explora el rasgueo, exploring strumming, and I hope that this track is going to work. So think about a strumming pattern using this chord. It's a new chord. You're in second grade. You haven't really learned it yet. See if you can find the second fret on the first string. Put your first finger. Busca la segunda cuerda para el segundo dedo y tercer dedo a tercer cuerda and rasguear. Okay? So, crean un padrone de rasguear. Create a strumming pattern about this tempo. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ah, muy bien. Por favor. Now, let's explore some percussion sounds on our ukulele. Can we make a combination of strumming, 1, 2, 3, E minore, and percussion? Okay, let's try with some music. Get into the flow. Déjate llevar por la música. Get into the flow of the music. Everything is perfect. Everything is right. And if you're ready and you want to get some language, here we go. Ready? Find some strumming. Ready, strum. Muy bien, músicos. This can go on for a really long time in the classroom, but I will spare you. Sometimes we add some drums, some percussion. You can definitely do something fun with this one. Okay, the next one is totally new to you guys. So now, elige un acorde que conozcan. Tócala 4 veces. So you're going to find a chord, any chord, B minor, G, D, A, B minore, G, D, A, and pick any chord and play it 4 times. Hopefully we all pick different chords. Ready? Here we go. 1, 2, tocamos juntos. Muy bien, excelente. Who picked B minor? Sorry. Who picked G? Who picked D? Who picked A? Excellent. Remember your chord, because now we're going to follow, síguense el padrone de la groseo. We're going to follow the patterns of the strumming. 4 B minor chords. I know you all know this. My kids don't. 4 G chords, acorde de G. 4 D chords, acorde de D. Y finalmente A. The last one is A. All right, you ready? So here we go. Stay with your chord, and we're going to start with B minor. Ready? 1, 2, 3, B minor. Play. 2, and G. Muy bien. D. And A. Otra vez. Repeat. Just wait. It's so many songs. Okay, muy bien. Okay, músicos. Yes, let's do some jams. Let's layer. At my school, this is our school song. So here we go. Somos dos puentes. Dos puentes. I'll tell you more about that later. Hold on. Oh, I'm supposed to be signed in. All right, so how do I do this if I'm not signed in? Hold on. I think I can figure it out. Momento, iTunes is not my friend. Here we go. Okay, this is the dancing part, okay? In Espanol, you can listen, you can play along. Ready? B minor, 4 times. 1, hey, e, de. Musicos, now are you brave? Can you play more than 1 chord? How many of you already can play all those chords? Go ahead, jam it out. And let's, instead of just our down strum, because you're advanced, muy avanzada, why don't we make up a strum? You can get the pop Latino beat if you want. Bum, 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 do, da, da, digga, da, da. Whatever you want. Get into the flow. Here we go. Oops. Sorry, going back to the middle of the song. Momento, sorry. This is our dancing part. This is a favorite. And we do dance with our ukuleles. There you go. G. D. All right. De todo el mundo, culturas diferentes. puentes nos trajo hasta aquí. Una nueva familia escolar, nuevos amigos, aprendiendo tanto, nos unimos. Somos dos puentes, corazones. We are dos puentes, unido a uno, siempre fuerte. Nos apoyamos formando enlaces. Dos puentes, we are dos puentes. So there you go. That's our school song, and that's how we practice our school song on ukulele. So welcome. Bienvenidos a la presentación. Well, bienvenidos compañeras de banda, bandmates. Welcome to the presentation of Bilingual Ukulele Centers. And today, el flujo, the flow of today is to have a little introduction, and then we're going to talk about, hablamos a culturalmente receptivo y descentrado. Y la próxima, una introducción a la UDL, an introduction to UDL. Then we're going to practice our centers and create our own centers. And hablamos a la apoyos en español y discusión, preguntas, maravillas al final de sesión. Okay, so welcome. That's going to be the flow for the day. This is me. I'm Lorene. And I am the music teacher at Dos Puentes. Sorry, I don't have all my tech really set, and I'm like kind of upset about that. So it's like getting into my my moment. But soy la profesora de música a la escuela primaria llamada Dos Puentes en Washington Heights, New York. Seguimos un modelo bilingüe en que los estudiantes aprenden en 50% del tiempo en inglés y 50% tiempo en español de forma continua. El contenido continua no se repite. Enseño totalmente en inglés en mi clase y en la clase de baile enseño totalmente en español. Por lo tanto, los artes cumplen con el marco bilingüe. So, in English, I teach at Dos Puentes in Washington Heights, where we are a bilingual school. Students learn 50% of the time in English, 50% of the time in Spanish, and Friday is a split day. 436 of our learners, and I see 2 grades twice per week. So I teach fully in English in music, and my compañera de baile, my colleague, teaches completely in Spanish, so that in the arts we meet the bilingual requirement. Now, do I totally teach 100% in English? Está imposible. No, I have to support always. So, in fact, that's how I really learned Spanish. To just be in it. So if I can do it, you all can totally do it. So I came from music education, and I left music education for about 20 years. And I came back in my 40s, and I've been teaching for 10 years at Dos Puentes. Prior to that, I was a conservatory-educated opera singer, did opera stuff, did a musical startup, had my family, and then I realized I needed to go back. And the gig economy was just crushing around the 2008 time, if any of you remember that time. That's when my son was born, and so I transitioned back into education as a teaching artist. And then my school, they just stuck because they were a startup. They started with 2 grades, and then I just kept adding until I came back into music ed full time. So that's my story of education. Yes?
What is ICT? What is ICT for grade?
ICT is integrated classrooms, so basically any kids who have IEPs or any special needs are integrated into that classroom. It has 2 teachers, It's blanking what that stands for. Integrated collaborative teaching. Yes, integrated collaborative teaching. So those teachers collaborate to support all the kids in the class. There's a certified special ed teacher and a certified gen ed teacher, and they collaborate together. Thanks for asking that question. So this is something that when I came back to teaching, I got introduced to, the wheel of power, where most of the power is centered is in the center of the circle. And I'm kind of that thing in the center of the circle. And over my training through the New York City Department of Ed, I've really learned how to examine, how to incorporate different diaspora into the center of power. And so I recently went to a professional development where we looked at this again, and I hadn't looked at it in a while. So I wanted to share it with you, especially if you are a non-dominant culture at your school, but you're teaching kids who are outside your culture. You should really always be aware how you fit on that wheel. And I have definitely learned that decentering language, especially in my job, really shares the power and shifts the wheel for my students. So if you move English out and you put bilingualism or multilingualism or polyglottism in, you also move things like skin color, socioeconomic status, citizenship, and formal education. Because a lot of our students who speak Spanish at home haven't studied it formally. So informal education develops a stronger power in the classroom when you think about where you fit on the wheel and how your students fit and how you can promote biculturalism, multiculturalism in your classroom. So in that vein, take a minute, get to know the people in your group, and talk about how you support non-dominant culture in your school. How do you share power in your school? So you can turn and talk. Gira y habla con tus compañeros. Okay? So take a couple minutes. Hi. Okay, thank you. So as I was preparing this for you guys, I was thinking about UDL. My school is a lab school for universal design learning. And if you don't know what that is, I'll get into it in a second, but it's up here. It is, universal design was an architectural style in the 1940s where architects would build buildings to serve the most population that they could without any supports. So think of it, ramps where instead of stairs, wide entryways instead of narrow entryways. So thinking about people who are able-bodied and who need some type of a device, a wheelchair, a walker, to be able to use the same space. It wasn't until the 70s that architecture really started delivering UD, universal design, because of the civil rights movement. And then it has become a catchphrase in education. How many people have heard UDL before, universal design learning? Awesome. How many of you use it in your classroom already? Amazing, great. So I was thinking about it. It's kind of a decentering philosophy, if you think about it. You tell me what you think, especially the people who use it. So UDL decenters kind of the teacher. It's kind of the wheel that we looked at. So it puts the power and the ownership of learning onto the student. And the teacher is merely like a facilitator in the learning journey, and the peer group is seen as a resource for learning. So it gives, while it's a lot of work when you first start it, it gives the teacher a lot of freedom over time. So there are 3 ways to think about UDL, and when you get this presentation, you'll be able to go to this UDL website. But this is how people who plan for UDL think. We think about how learners are going to engage in the lesson, and then we use those questions. Can the learner regulate? Can they sustain the effort? Can they engage? And can we get everyone without any teaching, active teaching? And then we think about how the information is presented. Does the information have higher levels of comprehension and understanding? Can you wind up to make something a little more hard? Or can you wind it down to differentiate for somebody who can't do it? So, and also this is where we get into language and symbols and understanding of the material. And then I think this is what Modern Band already does really well. We think strategically about how learners are expected to act and express. So, you know, how do they express themselves fluently? Well, if they're performing in a band, they're there, right? How do they act strategically, and how do they respond? So when you have this presentation at home, you can go to the UDL website, and there's just a lot of big picture items about how to plan your lessons for specifically your kids, reframing and thinking about these different brain sections that you're stimulating and getting engagement and representation. Let me go to the next one. Engagement, representation, and action and expression. So engagement is the why of learning, and this provides a variety of resources for the students when they're working in your classroom, a variety of centers, a variety of activities, so they don't get frustrated on one thing. Representation, you're offering visuals, charts, clips, different supports for your students to interact with. And action and expression is you're giving students choice in how they deliver what they're learning to you. There's a lot on the slide, but you'll have all this stuff, all the links, everything. I have a lot of resources for you all. So how do you create the why, the how, and the what in your classroom already, with or without centers? So discute con sus colegas inmediatos cómo crean compromiso, representación, acción, expresión en su clase, con o sin centros, with or without centers. So how do you get engagement? How do you get representation? So think for a minute to yourself, pair, work with your group, and then maybe we'll share. After 2 minutes, we'll share out each group one thing that they're already doing, because you're already doing this. All right? Go ahead. Thank you for sharing. This is how centers work. The teacher is really not the expert. The teacher is just facilitating. You all are such experts. I've seen all of you around, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so humbled that all of these experts are in my session. So this is what centers look like in my class. I do not do ukulele centers exclusively, but I can kind of give you a overview of what we do. So the fifth graders do ukulele centers with checklists and self-evaluations and things like that. But my kindergarteners love reading, so I have very great curated books, so they can pick books with rhymes, books about musicians. The Nutcracker is very popular. I have like 3 Nutcracker books, so they're always looking. You can actually see it right here. They read it all times of the year, so they love centers for that reason. These kindergarteners here, they're playing Go Fish. The kindergartners in the back are doing Chrome Music Lab and Music Play Online. More reading at the top with the djembe. Those are 3rd graders, and they're composing songs based on Change Sings by Amanda Gorman. So they created social justice songs, and that's just one group sharing their thing. And we did that in centers too. And then at the top, those are the kindergartners. They're really supposed to be sitting on the carpet with their ukuleles. But for some reason, that got by me. But I thought they were cute, so I snapped a picture. They are not doing it right. They're just exploring. And I don't really fix them for the first year. I let them pluck at the strings. I let them turn the pegs until it's a problem. I'm like, okay, now it's a problem. So I look at them, I'm like, but we do get a day where we can turn the pegs. I also do heavy orphs, so I have a lot of paraprofessionals in my room, and so they were practicing droning. That's 1st grade. These are 4th graders with the triangle and the sticks and the piano. That was centers. They were making up a song. I don't remember what it was. And then at the bottom is my ukulele what do you call it, evaluation, when I kind of like went through a checklist with the groups came and they rotated through me, and that was my assessment. So that's what we do in my class. And you'll have time, you can go through the task cards up here. You can see the kindergarten task cards, first grade task cards. This lesson plan is one that I wrote for observation, so it's like really flowery. It has assessments of all the kids in it, most of the kids. I think I got 2 out of the 3 grades. And then here are some checklists for my 4th grade. They were doing both Carnegie Hall Link Up and Indigenous music. One was ending, one was starting, so centers were great to kind of go between the units. And then I was so inspired last year at the session that I wanted to move my ukulele units this year towards modern band next year for my 5th graders. Just my 5th grade class is going to be modern band. So I just wanted to share with you one.
Questions?
Yeah.
When the kids are in their centers, how many centers are you doing in one class?
I usually, it depends. It really depends. I have 5 tables and the carpet. So I've never done more than 5 centers.
Do they rotate?
They rotate.
Like, so how long would one center be?
Between, for them, 7 to 10 minutes. But for you guys today, when we get into our centers, they're going to be 5, because I'm just going to go fast. Okay, so here, this is where we got with our ukulele unit, 8 weeks. You'll see somebody who didn't leave the technology center, or you'll see boomwhackers playing the wrong notes, but you'll see me turn the smartboard off, and that's when we go acoustic. So you'll hear with the track, and then without it. Where is the play? Right here?
Space bar.
That's we will go acoustic, no more sound. So then they switch instruments because I had a drummer already lined up, and you know how that goes. So now to get out of this, escape. So that is my ICT class for 5th grade, just so you know. So that was the second time we had run that song. So I just wanted you to see that is like a regular classroom time. We didn't really over-rehearse that. 2 chords. Yes, question?
Was the other adult, was that like a para or a...
That was a paraprofessional. He was tuning. I don't know how. You know, I'm sorry you needed Dramamine for that because it was a student in the back filming. But yeah, I didn't give the kids any direction on how to do that, especially the drummer. That's just natural talent. We have a lot of that in New York City. If you're a New York City teacher, you know this. But we just have so much talent, raw talent. So that's what we did. That was the second time we played that song. And I did it as an assessment. So can we learn a song really quick and just run a minute of it? And to see, you know, that was kind of their assessment of, can I play a 2-chord song? Can I do it on ukulele? Can I take a turn on drums? Can I play the boom whackers with the root tones, the tonics of each chord? Boom whackers were a little off. They picked the wrong colors, but, you know, after more intervention, everyone got a turn to do those different things. And that wasn't really centers, but it was center-esque. But learning all the techniques up to that point were done in centers. Okay? So you guys inspired me last year to try to get this far with my 5th graders. And now next year, I think I'm going to go fully modern band, let's see, with 5th grade. So today we're going to do centers. I want to look at the time. Oh, awesome. We're going to have to boogie. We have the setup song we have a song of strings. We have a strumming center, chord transitions, a dice game, a chord card game, the school song, which you worked on, and a chart, Mi Mientras Me Cura del Corazón by Carol G., which is a huge favorite in my class. Way hard for us, but we could do the intro and the chorus, so that's what we worked on. And then there is a digital ukulele center, but we're just going to do the acoustic ones because I think we only have 8 groups. Yeah, and you can explore the digital on your own. Those are all the task cards if you want to see them digitally. I'm going to pass them out for you right now, and we're going to have 5 minutes on each center. So the kids don't see this digitally, they see it like this, okay? So let me pass these around, and then when we finish up, before we rotate, you guys will have to just give me the materials. We'll have a captain, un capitán, for each group transition the center. So I think I'm going to start it here. Center number 1, those are your materials. Center number 2, 0. Okay, so in my planning, of course I planned for 9 centers for each of us, and we've all done 3. So this is something that you guys can work on, make your own center. This is a link to plain center pages. You can change it to do now, whatever you want to do. This is an adaptation by a teacher's college, Columbia Teachers College, special ed professor on how to create differentiation without making people feel bad, without saying básico, avanzada, without saying, you know, this is the basic requirement and this is advanced. This is what you must have, this is your must-have activity, and then this is what's fantastic. And then this is how you can support. You can either wind up or wind down. A lot of my kids, they have trouble with chords. They just play open for a really long time. Yeah. And I'm totally fine with that. How many people have had that in their classes? Mm-hmm. And then eventually they get more comfortable and they start adding chords. So we accept and include all sounds in the music room, in my room. So think about, comparte una idea que quieras probar en su clase. What idea would you like to take or explore in your class? And compartamos con su grupo ideas para centros. So take a minute, think about something that you might want to try or share, either that you got out of the session or something that you wanted to try. Okay, musicians, músicos. So, if you know, you know. Yo no tengo fluido. I am not fluent in Spanish. Yo hablo en mi clase con mis estudiantes. Aprendo con mis estudiantes en la escuela y yo uso español todo el día y practican con mis estudiantes. Yo no estudio español formalmente. So I have not studied Spanish formally. I learned through not Google Translate, but DeepL. Do you know DeepL? No. Better than Google Translate. I'll add that to the resources. DeepL. DeepL. And it gives you, on the Spanish, it gives you a winding up or a winding down of vocabulary. So if you want a more difficult word in Spanish, you can choose that. So the way I support Spanish without personal fluency, I have Spanish all around my room. We sing in Spanish every day. Even though we have English and Spanish day, todo el día está un día de español en mi clase. So one of the students says, Miss Lorene, it is a Spanish, it's an English day. I'm like, and I need to practice my Spanish. Necesito practicar mi español. So we use Spanish and English pretty much half and half in my class. I try to have Spanish supports on all my slides, definitely my task cards. I bilingualize songs as they need to be, or parts of songs, choruses of songs. I struggle with my students Cuando no sabes una palabra, usando translanguaging. So if I don't know a word, I'll just throw in an English word. And you'll be surprised how many students that I have that speak English really well, but never speak it out. So they see me struggling, trying, and we will have a conversation, them fully in Spanish, me in bad Spanish, then I'll switch to English, and we'll be understanding each other because their command of English is maybe even higher than my command of Spanish. So be comfortable with embracing the perfection, even if you're not a speaker. Let me go back. How many people want to incorporate more Spanish in their class? Awesome. So you can do it. It takes a lot of time, and it's a commitment. But if you watch television in Spanish and you listen to great artists like Carol G, I mean, I've learned so much Spanish from Carol G. I just, literally listening to songs, consuming media, reading Esperanza Rising in Spanish. Read the books that your fifth graders are reading. Listen to podcasts in Spanish. I listen to like a Puerto Rican podcast. It's really super interesting. So stay humble and be in the spirit of collaboration at all times. So in New York State, we have a language acquisition proficiency. So you're entering, emerging, transitioning, expanding, or commanding. I would say I am somewhere between emerging and transitioning, although the people that I work with know they can't speak Spanish in front of me now because I know what they're going to say. So they would say I'm more towards the transitioning and expanding, but I'm in and out of the languages, and I'm acquiring vocabulary just by speaking in Spanish, learning a lot through reading and listening. And then some of our students never make it to commanding in their non-dominant language. So we talk in our school as we want to get your dominant language and your non-dominant language equal. Not all schools think like that, but our school does. So it's fascinating to take a look at that. My take on centers, this is just what I think after kind of being forced to do them, because my school is a lab school for centers. Mm-hmm. It's great. It builds independence, engagement, reuse, repurpose. It's inspiration. It's great as a facilitator once you have them all built. But it takes a lot of time. It's intense time to create them, prep them, cut them. You have to be creatively grouping a lot of times with your kids, because we know some kids don't work well together. And then keeping organized, so hard. I have bins, and then other bins by grades. And then there are some kids who are very stubborn, who don't want to do. So then you find a boom whacker, and they can align within the chord group. They don't want to do chords, but they can play the root of each chord because they're all color coded towards that. And once, sometimes after practicing centers for a while, that intense facilitation, to get the behavior to get to centers, it's worth it, but it does take time. So I'm going to be honest about that. So next year in 5th grade, despite all that, nivel arriba, we're going up. This is the slide that I did with my kids. We're going to spend 40 classes, 40 weeks on modern band. So I'm going to take them as far as I can. Estudiaremos estos instrumentos en centros y haremos play-alongs en el grupo mientras mejoramos nuestras habilidades y creamos una banda para nuestro espectáculo de la primavera. So we have a spring arts celebration, and each class will be performing one modern band song. I don't know how, but that's what we're going to do. Drum pad next year. I don't have room for a set in my room, but maybe I can get one of these bebés right here to take to New York. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm inspired from this first day of the summit to already level up with my 5th graders. And these are just regular kids. These are not like special. This is not a special music school. 34% of my English language learners have IEPs, and they really excel in music class. So New York City music teachers are amazing. If you haven't met them, they have created this beautiful flower and we kind of think about the roots of music: singing, chanting, moving, listening, questioning, composing, improvising, playing instruments, and then how that creates the beautiful flower. So I linked all of our ways that we have our standards given to us. We have a New York City Blueprint for the Arts, we have New York State music standards, and then national music standards. You're gonna get the links to all this. It's all linked, but that, I look at that a lot when I'm struggling, and I'm like, I need more action. So I hope today was a day of action. I have some additional resources. People were asking for play-alongs. I highly recommend Andy Ramos's play-alongs. Does anyone know Andy? Andy? He has all the Selena songs, Como la Flor. He has Vivir mi vida. He has some rancho music, Mexican rancho music. It's a little complicated, but there are all, and also he has Encanto. He has, Hey Ho. He's got a lot of like English songs as well. But you'll be able to find stuff. Dr. Jill Reese teaches at Fredonia University. She's a music ed prof, upstate New York. She has a great website of play-alongs. And I don't know why I put the ukulele fool on here, but at the time it seemed like a good idea. Of course, you know the Jam Zone, Music Will's gift to us all. So hopefully you're using that. And I told you all that the strumming chart is completely free. And if you are at a point where you need some tutorials for your students fully in Spanish or fully in English, fully in Spanish in guitar and ukulele, I highly recommend this. Sometimes when I get a new student who is just new to the country, I will put them in their own center and give them a few videos, and they're just like, and then they catch up. So I really recommend those tutorials in, does anyone use ukuleleans?
Yes.
So good, yes. The digital exploration, my kids love iPads. You can go to UkeBuddy, and there's a whole digital setup where you can find chords, pluck the strings. It's kind of an exploration center for ukes. So this is the presentation. Those are the task cards. Everything in the task cards is completely free, except for if you did the chord cards that had the chords on them, the colorful chord cards. Those were $4.50 on Teachers Pay Teachers. But everything here is available to you for free. If you want to spend $4.50, you'll have all 9 centers. And please change them as needed. Make them yours. So I hope it's been inspiring. Which one? That is crucial, right? Yes. Yes. And there's a tipping point because then they would be like, are we doing centers today? I'm like, no, we're doing Link Up, Carnegie Hall, prep. All they want is centers. They want to learn individually. But as we know, music is not always an individual sport. You can't always teach in centers, but it's a great engagement tool. Okay, this is me, Lorene Phillips at Dos Puentes Elementary. If you're ever in New York City and you want to walk up 5 flights of stairs to my classroom, you are welcome. Please jam on for the rest of the session. Thank you for being so flexible. You only got to do 3 out of 9 centers. You helped me with tech. You are so gracious. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you for participating today. So, make sure you complete the survey. I don't think,
Yeah, please, if you could do the survey, that would be awesome. And if anyone didn't get checked in, I can support.
This one? Does anyone have any questions specifically? I tried to make everything self-explanatory, but you never know. Thank you for coming, even though you're not fluent, and thank you for seeking out, going outside of your wheel of power into other avenues and other areas, and you can definitely do it. Yes?
What are some of your tips for classroom management when you don't have
Okay. So we still have just a couple minutes, and there are just a few questions. So, classroom management is.
Like right now.
Yeah, classroom management is definitely. I'm just going to take a couple questions. Thanks for everybody listening. It's a problem. So with some kids with materials, but over time they have learned that if they're not respecting materials, they have time to sit out and watch how centers are done, and then they can come back when they're ready. I often have to help kids wind down, like if they're having a really rough day, they've come in with something else, and they just don't want to do it. I will find them an easier activity to do, or I will have them facilitate for a while till they find the center they want to be at, and I will let them maybe start there. That's a good way. Also, moving between centers is an issue. We like push our chairs in, everybody waits, so we take a breath, and then we move. We don't have to run because they will run. They will run, right? We take a breath, and then we rotate. And I have it in a pattern around my classroom. It's kind of like an L. It goes in an L. Did I answer that question?
Yeah. Well, yeah. That's. And then like as far as like the standards, and obviously you have a lot. Like, are you kind of phasing some out during the year? Like.
Yeah. Like I'll just move them down to a lower grade. Like I'm not going to give the 5th graders the thumb song, the setup song. But I am going to give them more and more charts. And then I'm going to scaffold it so they learn the easy parts, the easy rhythms first, and then we do the parts that have like maybe 2 chord changes in a measure. That's a little hard for them, that they need to practice. Any other questions? So kindergarten is 25, and my classes are all under 30. My upper grades are lower numbers, 22 to 25 in my 4th and 5th grade.
I wanted to add for the transitioning of centers, one thing that you can do is say that there's a magical word for the day. After your students are used to transitioning or you've established how to transition between centers, let's say the magic word is ukulele. So they'll literally be sitting there waiting for you. And so you literally say ukulele and then they follow you. So that's something that I carry from
We use responsive classrooms, so I have that bell. It's like a G, ding, and they're used to that in their regular classroom. That just signifies a transition. But that's excellent.
Centers, do you have the kids bring their own technology, or do you have it?
I have a technology cart on my floor, which I share with the science teacher and the dance teacher. And so, depending on the center, I may have between 8 and 10 iPads. Sometimes I'll throw an iPad at a center for like a play along. It just depends. Any other questions?
How often do you do centers?
I do centers solidly in, I would say, October, the month of October, and then in November I switch to concert prep because my kids do perform, and then February, March, and then in June. And they ask for it all the time. So sometimes we do it. I keep them fairly organized. In fact, they know where it all is, and they're like, "Oh, we'll set it up. Don't worry." So yeah, and sometimes we'll only do one center at the end of a class. You know, for people to like, especially composing. The kids love to be at the piano. Some kids just want to strum. Some definitely iPad. You know, I did Soundtrap with my 5th graders this year, so they were all about that. Chrome Music Lab is super fun. Music Play Online is fun. Those games are fun. So yeah, they sometimes they just want to play on xylophones. So they're well behaved enough that they know how to respect the instruments. But there is something to getting that set, to getting that flow. Anything else? Thank you so much. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you for being so gracious. It's been my pleasure.